Welcome back to Simplexity Analytics seasonal report for February of 2024. This month is pretty slow. We only have one market that is showing up, and that is copper, and it is the most bullish month of the year for copper. So we will cover that, and as always, we covered the S&P E-minis as well. So all is not lost here. The S&P E-minis this month are the second most bearish month of the year, so that'll be worthwhile having a look at too. Here is the seasonal chart for copper. It is a 2-year look back on a weekly chart, and we have our Simplexity seasonal indicator at the bottom. We have vertical lines which indicate the beginning of February each year, and we see how after that line occurs, how prices have historically risen pretty sharply in February. 2 years ago, this was the case in terms of price as well. We saw a pretty good rally once the calendar turned, but last year we didn't. February, or the beginning of February, was almost the top, and we saw a decline for pretty much the rest of the year. So we'll see how that turns out this year, and we'll get a little more insight into this by having a look at our heat map. And here's the calendar heat map for copper for February of 2024. And the first thing you might notice about this chart is that it's a little bit more sparse than other ones you may have seen. And the reason for that is that the metals markets, which includes gold, silver, platinum, and copper, and as well the energy markets, are a little more difficult to place on these heat maps. And that's because we use a $2,000 maximum stop on our back test. And sometimes these markets can have big, wide-ranging days that are greater than $2,000, and that'll knock us out of a trade, and that will lower the winning percentage, even though that trade may continue on to be a good one. So when we do put the numbers on here in the back test, you know that these really are the best of the best for this month. So to focus in here, we look at the bright green that's occurring here in the second week of the month, or the first week if you include, there's some green up here as well. But this February 7th and 8th is the time to really key in on. The 8th especially has 3 days horizontally that are bright green, and also has a 5-day hold then as well. So starting February 7th is a time to get bullish and look for long entries in copper here. And then we have a couple greens in the next week. That's nothing to speak of too much. And then we have some reds following the holiday on an abbreviated 4-day week that week. And then we have a couple of greens towards the end. But again, that's mixed with a red there as well. So I'm not looking for anything down there. I'm keying in on this week right here for longs in copper. And as always, we take a look at the S&P E-minis every month, and this month might be a little more pertinent because February is the second most bearish month of the year. It has returned 55% winning months in the 20-year back test and has lost $8,000, so that is a bearish return. And if we look at the indicator itself, we see that 2 years ago the indicator showed a rally for the first part of February and then a decline. The next year was a little more tepid in its rally and then saw a big decline again, and then we see that showing up this year as well. In terms of price, 2 years ago we saw a modest rally for the first 2 weeks of February, and then it fell off. Last year, same thing. We saw a bit of a rise at the very beginning of February and then fell off again. So looking at this year, we're kind of looking in terms of the makeup of the price action, looking a lot like it has the previous 2 years. We've rallied into February last year and 2 years ago as well, although the rally ended towards the middle of January, but still we are looking at the same type of a picture coming up here in February this year. So let's have a look at the heat map and see where to key in on these days in February. Okay, here is the E-mini heat map for February of 2024. So the first thing I want to notice here is that we have pretty much top half is green, bottom half is red, and that actually corresponds well to our seasonal indicator, which showed a kind of, like I said, a tepid rally at the beginning of the month, followed by a steep decline for the rest of February and into March. So if we look at these bright green days here in this week starting in February 12th, this is actually a very good buying area. We have a ton of green here. We have some bright greens as well and a 5-day hold. So that's a very good buying area. And then that is followed up after the holiday, or even a couple of days before the holiday. We get a few little red areas in here. But after the holiday, after President's Day, we get a big bright red area here. So what this means to me is that this is an overall bearish month, but we have a good buy and a good sell area both within a week of each other in this month. So that means in order for this to be an overall bearish month, this selling area here has to be greater than the buying area here has been on a whole over the course of this back test. So that means this is a super strong area to be short the S&P E-minis. So right after this holiday, right going into the Tuesday trading, I want to look for short signals in the E-minis. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified on our next videos. Simplexity Analytics, making complex trading simple.